Welcome to the Milt Talk Legacy Builders podcast, a place where Milts can connect to one another to inspire, motivate, and collaborate to continue to build a strong and well-connected alumni association. I believe that Milton Hershey School rebranding is actually just getting started, and I want to be part of that journey. I think the best way to commemorate Milton and Catherine Hershey is to continue our own legacy that impacts the world as Milton Hershey so impacted us. I believe the level of extraordinary that each and every Milt carries within them is deeply underestimated, and this podcast will help in the journey to show off what Milts are really made of. I'm excited to get to know more Milts, more insight to their upbringing, and what they're doing now to build their legacy and bring value to others, and what being a Milt really means to them. Today I'm talking with Angenette Crume, class of 2005, founder of Crume Creative Solutions, LLC, Arise Beautiful, and Crume Fusion Desserts. She's also the author of Arise My Beautiful Child. Angenette is a love-centered creative. She occupies multiple roles, including licensed mental health counselor, self-worth coach, mother, wife, author, baker, and entrepreneur. Angenette works with others to unlock their unique skills, talents, and abilities to use them as tools to find solutions in everyday challenges. So welcome to the Milt Talk Legacy Builders podcast, Angie, and I'm so happy to have you here as my guest.
Hi.
So I know that you got to Milton Hershey super young. How old were you when you first got there?
I was 6.
You're 6. And was that second grade?
Yes, it was second grade for me. Yep.
Wow. So that was very young age. And we had talked about this many times. And I know that you had said before getting to Milton Hershey at such a young age created like such a sense of independence for you. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, I guess so. Being sent to Milton Hershey so young, I felt like, that living between two worlds.
Yeah.
And so almost having to find my own meaning in that, I think, is what created that independence. And, like being at home, it was kind of chaotic at home. And so, um, you know, again, living between the two worlds, coming from the structure of Milton Hershey and then trying to, you know, navigate that at home, being 6, I kind of just started putting the pieces together on yeah, this is a different experience. I think it clicked for me, like this is a different experience really early.
Yeah.
And so I think it really did help me to become independent. And I know, like, in the future, like, too, when a lot of people struggle with that, I'm going off to college, I'm leaving my family behind, as Milts, we don't necessarily have that same
Right.
attachment.
Right,
So I
right.
remember like being in college and friends like, oh, I have to ask my mom, or like, and I'm like, why?
Right. Right. Yeah. I haven't had to ask my mom since I was 6. How funny. So what college did you decide to go to?
I ended up going to a small women's college in Raleigh, North Carolina called Meredith College. And it was probably the best thing for me. Coming from the Milt, I knew that I needed a smaller college environment, and I needed something where I was going to be like a face and not just a number.
Yeah.
And so I really fell in love with Meredith. That wasn't the plan. It was like they sent me a free application, and I was like, I'll apply.
Yeah.
And then I visited because my family lives in North Carolina. So I visited, and it was so cute. And like, it was so cute.
You.
So I decided immediately that like that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
And it was probably the best thing for me. Like I said, I was able to really enjoy my experience there.
Yeah. What would you study there?
I studied international studies, was my undergrad.
Okay. Wow. The things that you decided early on, like, are so different than a lot of other Milts to go to a college so much smaller, and especially all women's college is so different than like the average Milt who's like, I want to go to something big and huge and just be out and free. But like you said, it was exactly what you needed. So that's really cool that it worked out that way. So international studies, what all does that entail? Is that like the study of culture or?
It was kind of a mix. So, and then for me, I studied abroad for a year too in that. So I took a mix of history and poli-sci classes,
Wow.
international politics
Wow.
type courses, at econ. So it's just like a mix of a lot of different things that I got. And like I said, I did the study abroad, so that gave me some other courses that you wouldn't normally get. I studied abroad in Turkey for a semester, and then in Botswana for a semester.
Wow, how very cool. I don't think I knew that. So Turkey in one semester and Botswana in another semester, two very completely different countries. How crazy is that? How did you like being overseas like that?
So my original plan was to study abroad for a year in Turkey.
Okay.
But it ended up being a complete disaster. Like it
Wow.
was terrible.
Wow.
It was terrible. So being a Black woman in a Muslim country, I literally stopped traffic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And every car that drove by me honked.
Wow.
People would like try to touch me and take pictures of me.
Wow.
Like it was super, super intense.
That's awesome.
And it ended up as like people would follow me home sometimes,
Yeah.
like, so it ended up escalating to something crazy,
Yeah.
where I just decided that I didn't feel safe anymore.
Yeah.
And so I contacted the study abroad company. I had the funding to be gone for a year. And so I asked if there was somewhere else that I could go. And so I ended up choosing Botswana. It was a new program that they were offering. And so I went to Botswana, and I did my spring semester there.
Wow. Yeah, that's scary. I'm from Syria, and honestly, I've never been back anywhere to the Middle East. Yeah, because I already know it's evolved, of course, but it's still very sketchy. Like I definitely wouldn't go back, especially undressed like this or with tattoos showing or even a little bit of hair showing. I know some countries like Lebanon, they're a little bit more, at
Yeah,
ease, but
Turkey's not too bad. They're very much modern, and they pride themselves on that. They're very much they're more trying to head more towards, the European stuff.
yeah,
But
yeah.
um
I
I
know
mean,
historically Middle Easterners have always been racist. So
yeah.
seeing you there probably was like, whoa, what is she doing here kind of thing,
Well, it wasn't necessarily racism, which was one of the reasons why it was struggle. Like, so I would say that studying abroad in Turkey was probably one of the most transformative experiences that I've had,
Wow.
especially in my journey for like my Blackness,
Yeah.
right? Because in America, when someone treats you a certain way, it's racism.
Yeah.
But that's not the same feeling that I was getting in Turkey. And so it was more of a question like what's happening here?
Yeah.
And so because the other thing, like, men were approaching me a lot too,
Yeah.
like for sex, like just
Yes.
real straight. And
Yeah.
so I was like, am I like, do I look like a prostitute? Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
So I actually ended up doing my research study on that, on like what was happening, and I was taking polls and trying to figure out like what was their perception of me,
Yeah.
because it's different. It's not just that I'm Black, but I'm Black American, which is different than African. And so the conversations were interesting. So they were like, the question was always, why are you here? Like, why are you in Turkey?
Wow.
And I'm
It's
like,
they were
well,
intrigued. They were extremely
yeah,
curious and intrigued by you. Yeah.
yes.
Wow.
And I had an afro at the time too. So like,
Yeah.
also another thing, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, why are you here? And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I just wanted to check out your country and see what was going on here. And then it would be, oh, so where are you from? I'm like, America. They're like, no, 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 before that,
Right.
America.
Right. Yeah. 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 They think like every Black person is somewhere out of Africa. Yeah.
Right. And then I'm like, no, America. And they're like, no, before that. I'm like, well, my family are descendants of slaves. Slaves, no,
Yeah.
everyone's free here. Like, so
That's hilarious.
so it was such an interesting journey. And then so that was happening. And then at the same time, like me, I always jump like in the pool, like, right. I don't just dip my toe in, I like
Yeah.
just jump in it.
Yeah.
So when I decided to study in Turkey, I'm like, I'm doing the homestay, I'm
Yeah.
staying with a family, you know, all of that.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening was it took me all the like so the family that I stayed with lived 45 minutes away from the language school, and then almost an hour away from the university.
Oh, wow.
And so that created these times where I was traveling alone.
Yeah.
And had I known, in hindsight, I would have stayed on campus, because students travel in groups, and I would have been a lot safer. So that problem was problematic because that's when a lot of my issues were, when I was traveling alone back and forth to my homestay.
Yeah. Wow.
But so it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I loved the country. Like Turkey was a
Beautiful, yeah.
beautiful country.
Mhm.
I did have a good time, but it was also extremely isolating. I was one of 22 students on the program, but I was the only Black one.
Yeah. Wow.
And so then that created a different set of problems too. And then as I was experiencing Turkey differently from everyone else, and the handbook that they gave us before we left did not have any type of, they had one paragraph about being African American in Turkey,
Right.
but that wasn't adequate enough to describe what I was actually going through.
Totally.
And so it was extremely isolating. And then when I did reveal what was happening to me, basically, a classmate of mine like locked me in his car.
Yeah.
Right. And so I had to like literally fight him off of me and
Right.
run or whatever. And so when I reported it to the person, like she just wasn't very helpful. She didn't understand what was going on. So at that point, that was when I made a decision like, no, I don't really like that. I did form a relationship with one of my Turkish professors. And so I went to her and she was able to, tell me how to report it and like walk me through the steps of what to do.
Yeah.
But then like immediately I was like, how do I schedule my final exams because got to go.
Yeah. I'm glad you got out of there because that's scary, very scary. In any country you're not used to or familiar with at all, that's scary.
Right.
Yeah, let alone a country where they kind of have a history of, being a little bit more dominant towards women and not doing anything about it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. And
so
how did you like that?
I absolutely love Botswana. It was like the complete opposite experience that I had.
Crazy.
I went from standing out, stopping traffic to like completely blending it.
Yeah.
And so it was so much fun. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
I'm recording something. But yeah, so Botswana was really nice. I really enjoyed Botswana. I made some really great friends, really great connections. Got to tour a lot around Southern Africa. So we would do weekend trips to like Mozambique and like
oh my God.
Namibia. That was like my favorite place in the whole world. Like the one place where I felt like at perfect peace. They have there's a place where the desert meets the ocean.
Oh my gosh, how cool.
And we went four-wheeling like on the sand dunes and got the ocean, the blue sky and
how beautiful.
So Botswana was great. I really liked it. But that whole year was very transformative. Like I said, it really had me think about myself, my Blackness, in a different way. It also made me think about like how good I am. It showed me how I'm able to connect with people, even people that I have absolutely nothing in common with.
Yes, absolutely. And I think a lot of that came from being in Milton Hershey at such a young age and for so long, to be able to adapt to any environment or any culture that you're around. Yeah. That's such a skill. Wow. So from when you finished college, you went right into what counseling? Did you go right into counseling then? Okay.
No.
Okay. What happened then?
No, I've been on a journey. So after I got back from studying abroad, my life shifted in like a completely different direction that I was even thinking about. So I originally started international studies and chose Turkey purposely because I wanted to go into the foreign service.
Okay.
Like that was my plan, to go into the foreign service. However, my senior year in college, I met a man and that whole thing.
Yeah.
And Miss Independent Angie, I don't want to get married ever or have children because I'm all about my career, was married. And so I graduated from college in August. I moved to Boston for a job as like I was the head of like an AmeriCorps program, so I was recruiting for that. So I moved to Boston, and then so that was October. December I was married.
Wow.
March I was pregnant.
Wow.
The following October I quit my job.
Wow.
And then I was a full-time stay-at-home mom for the next 5 years.
Wow, that's great.
And so in that time, there was like a crisis where I was like, whoa, like I have a baby, I'm someone's mom, and like what happened?
Yeah.
Like what, like seriously, like what happened? Why, how am I here? And what am I gonna do? Because I knew that like I love being with my children, but I know the way that how I'm set up that this wasn't going to be long term.
Right.
So I decided to get my master's in counseling at that point.
Okay. So that was when you decided, you know what, I think I want to be a counselor.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. So you did your master's. Where'd you do your master's?
I did it online. Because I was at home with the kids. So, you know, I had 2 children during the time that I was in my master's program. So I did take the scenic route. It took me about 7 years to complete my master's. You know, taking the time off when I needed to, and, you know, so I did that. And then I started working in a prison.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. That's also really tough.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved working in a prison, but I am not the proper fit to work in a prison.
Yeah.
I'm too bubbly and too much sunshine for that environment.
Right.
And so that's where my journey into entrepreneurship started. So basically, I had this job working as I was a substance abuse counselor and group facilitator in a prison, in a women's prison. And the inmates loved me, right? And so when I work, I tend to be drawn to like chaotic environments and bring like peace and stability, basically. And so when I took this position, there was a lot of turnover. The other counselors were just quitting right and left. They had just implemented a new program, so the inmates weren't really feeling it. The first group that I observed, like they almost like revolted. Like they was not trying to hear what this girl was trying to say. And I remember going to my supervisor like, hey, is this how this is going to be? Because I don't think I want to do this. But very quickly I was really good. I was really good at it, and I did really well. Inmates love coming to my groups. You know, they would purposely try to come to my groups. I would walk through the like courtyard and all the inmates would be like, hey, Angie.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And that's not, that's not
normal. Exactly. Yeah.
That's not how we get down in the prison. So but for some reason I kept failing my evaluations. So like the supervisors would come and they would evaluate like how we're facilitating groups. And I kept failing. And I would be like, why am I failing this? Yeah, I'm training all the new people coming in. Like people love my group. So like what's happening? What's the disconnect? You know, so that was happening. And then so finally, like I was like frustrated, and I actually had a conversation with Nicole Walters now. You know?
Oh yeah, Nana.
Nana.
How funny.
because we had talked, several times while I was like getting my master's and stuff. And so we talked, and she was like, well, you could do this, and you could do that with the skills and blah 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 blah. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
And so I talked to her, and she was like, hey, I have this course, 1K one day, you should think about it. And so I did, and I did it, and very quickly I put together the pieces. I put together the beginnings of Arise Beautiful.
Wow.
And to test it out, I took it to my job. And so there was part of my job was we got to do once a month, we got to do like our own kind of thing, veer from the curriculum that they had us teaching. And so at that point, I had failed my third evaluation.
Wow.
So I had this evaluation. I asked my supervisor, well, did I pass? And she was like, well, we'll talk. That's what she said. And then she didn't say anything to me for the rest of the day. And then she leaves.
Wow.
And then the next day, my other supervisor comes, and she gives me like a letter saying that, one, not only did I fail, but two, I'm being written up because this is my third time failing, and that I should be suspended without pay because I failed 3 times.
Wow.
And so at that point, I was like, yeah, no, this is not it. I am going to quit. So I gave them my resignation letter. And so that one like class came, and I'm writing out my 2 weeks, and this is almost like the day before my last day that I'm facilitating this group. And the head, like it was like the regional director or somebody high up came to visit, and she wanted to observe a group. And so she just asked, she was like, can I observe your group? And I was like, sure. She had no idea what was going on. So she was like, sure, come to my group. And so I did it, and I did the curriculum that I created. And it was all about, self-worth and empowerment. And it was funny, like I had the ladies like catwalking and like, saying affirmations and stuff like that. And it was just amazing. And so at the end, she, her and the other woman that was with her pulled me to the side, and they were like, hey, would you like some feedback on your group? And I was like, sure, feedback's always good. And she was like, this was one of the best facilitated groups I've ever seen. Like, can we clone you?
Yeah.
And they pretty much gave me like 4 pages of like raving reviews.
Wow.
Right. And I was like, oh,
right. Maybe you should talk to these other supervisors who seem to, not like me.
Yes. And so that was part of the problem, like, because the issue was this. I was clinically trained, and my supervisors were not.
Right.
Like my direct supervisor that was evaluating me had a bachelor's degree in biology.
Oh my gosh.
So how are you actually like evaluating my skill set in facilitating a clinical group?
Yeah. Wow. What a terrible system.
So at that point, that's when I was like, okay, this is validation that this is going to work. And so that's when I started the coaching business at that point, coaching. And I moved on to like work at an agency. So I started working at a mental health agency. And so doing the individual therapy work. But it was validating to know that, okay, it's not me. And that's one of the things that I preach to people all the time. It's like, when you're not used properly and when you're not in the right environment, you feel broken and you feel like something's wrong. And that's not necessarily true. It's just the wrong environment.
Right. That's so good. Yeah, because, you could have taken what they were saying more to heart and been like, maybe this is just not for me at all, and just completely left the industry, or, not you take it. And then thank God these other people said, you know what, let me see, because that then validated the fact that you have something. And then, like you said, that created that entrepreneurial spirit in you, because this, like you said, this works, Wow, that's great. So then when you started Arise Beautiful, you were pretty much doing that simultaneously while you were doing the one-on-one therapy.
Yes.
Do you think you always knew you wanted to be an entrepreneur, or do you think that happened during that time, of working with the prison, that you thought, you know what, I think I'm going to just do this on my own? Or do you think even growing up, did you ever think of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think I was always thinking about entrepreneurship. Even when I went to get my master's for counseling, I knew that I was going to go into private practice. Like that was always the
Right.
goal.
Yeah.
Um, to work for myself. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I've learned about myself is that, and I've learned to embrace it because sometimes I used to think like, oh, girl, you all over the place, you doing all the things. But now I'm starting to realize um, and walk it out that like that's a gift,
Yeah.
and for me, being a person that believes in God,
Yeah.
like the whole story of like the talents, right? Like God gives you the talents that he thinks that you can manage,
Yeah.
and so all of these things, all of these ideas,
Yeah.
they're there for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what I think differentiates the average person from the entrepreneur is, hey, I have these skills, I have these passions. I'm just going to go ahead and do something about it, I'm just going to take the risk or do whatever necessary steps it takes to just follow this path and see where it takes me, instead of just kind of thinking about it, but staying the path that they're initially on. But that again, that's what differentiates the average person from the entrepreneur is like that initial, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to take the initiative and try this out, and
Yeah,
then
and
look what it's turned into.
yeah, and I've also learned like there's a special grace for that too. Like sometimes, like for me, like taking an idea from like an idea and dream like concept and making it into a plan, it comes really natural for me.
Yeah.
And so it's just the way my brain operates.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people get stuck in that, how do I take it from dream to something that's actionable? And
Right.
like I'm realizing, like when I talk to people, like that is what that's the vein that I'm flowing in,
Yeah.
which is kind of hard for me to kind of package to like offer to people. Because when I say that I'm a therapist, that's not, I'm not just a therapist.
Right.
Like what I do is I actually help you to discover those things in you, like those specific things in you,
Yeah.
right? So I dust off all the negative messages that you may have received around that, so that you can see it for what it is, that is your unique tools.
Yeah.
And now how do you use that to make space for yourself in this world, whether it's career, whether it's as a mom, whatever, you use those things because that's what they're there for.
Yeah.
So yeah, you talk too much, so what?
Right.
Use it,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You laugh funny, so what? Use it, right?
Right.
And so that's what I do. So it's more than therapy. So yes, I can heal the trauma that's connected to the distortion of that,
Yeah.
right? But then I can also help you put it together in a way, in a plan that you can actually monetize it,
Yeah.
right? So like
Yeah.
it's all of that.
That is good. Yeah, because you're lucky enough to be able to use your skills in therapy and all of the knowledge you've acquired through all the books and training and education that you acquired to for because that's a lot of times what stops, the average person from going to the next level and trying out entrepreneurship is like the lack of belief, lack of self-worth. I'm not going to be good enough, fear, all those
Yep.
things that you said are clouding and distorting what their true potential is. So to be able to blend those skills that you have in therapy to first help people get rid of that and then be able to find their worth and their true talents and then coach them and strategize a plan with them. Like that's a really hard, because a lot of coaches that are out there, life coaches and business coaches, they don't have that therapy background,
Right.
And it's tough to coach someone, and show them all these things, yet they're still battling all the other deeper, darker stuff,
Right.
that's
And
really kind of still holding them down.
and that's what I've been learning, bridging the gap between being a therapist and a coach.
Yeah.
Because there are times where I'm coaching someone and you bump into that trauma and you're like, you need deeper root, you need deeper work. And so I always say, like, when I talk about the differences between coaching and counseling, it's I give the tree analogy, right?
Yeah.
Counseling deals with the roots of the tree,
Okay.
right? And coaching is going to deal with the branches and the leaves,
Yeah.
right? The more surface level stuff.
Yeah.
The bearing of the fruit comes from the branches and the trees, but
Mhm.
you got to have healthy roots,
Yeah.
right? So
Otherwise,
you
be
got
no fruit.
so that's how I always like to describe the two, but I'm that interesting in between because I recognize all of that. And
Yeah.
that's why some people say that therapy doesn't work, because again, you go to therapy, you heal all those things, and now you're still stuck because you don't know how to move forward,
Right.
because that's a different thing now.
Yes.
Now that you're healed, now that you've realized, these things about yourself, now you have to go back out there, put yourself back out there, use it again to know that you're not broken, right? To know
Right.
that you're fixed.
Right. Yeah. That's
And
the
so then you get to that question, like, now what?
right.
And so that's why, and so people translate that as, oh well, therapy is not effective,
Right.
therapy doesn't work.
Right.
Like it does,
Yeah.
and that's
You
where it
need an
becomes.
actionable plan afterward. Yeah. Yeah. And most people don't have that. Like you said, their mind can't go from, what I want, what I see, what I dream about to, what it's going to take to kind of get there, so then they just feel at a loss, like, oh, it's probably too much anyway. Whereas you can then simplify that for them and say, no, it's these steps. This is, if you follow this plan, this strategy, you can attain, this dream of yours.
Right. And it doesn't always have to be entrepreneurship, right? That's not
Right.
always because some of us are worker bees.
Yeah.
It takes all of us to work together. And that's the other thing too, learning how to be effective as you,
Yeah.
right? Know what's good for you.
Yeah.
And know when you come to to the end of your ropes, and we're not all the things. We can't do all the things. Like, yes, I try to do all the things. But I know where my limits are too, right? I
Yeah.
can do a lot of things. That's it. I can do a
Right.
lot of things. I can't
Yeah.
do all the things. So
Right.
there comes a point where I end and I need others.
Right. And learning to prioritize, what's most important to, what can be kind of put on the back burner for a while, or what can take less of my energy or my, mental thought process. Yeah. Yeah. Prioritizing is crucial. So
And
what do
and
you think? So when you created your overall business, because you have an overall LLC, and then under that you started to create like sub businesses, which I love.
so
And I
so it went backwards. So
okay.
because I'm doing all the things, I had all these little sub businesses.
Yeah.
So and so that's one of my pitfalls, right? Because I am like go and like just try it, right? So I'm like, oh, I want to be a coach.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it, right? And so I set up all the systems and all that, and I was functioning as just like a DBA, right? Nothing, nothing official.
Right.
But then I started to have all these little projects that I was starting, and then it was like, okay, taxes is coming, and I got all.
Yeah.
And so the back end part of the business, I am terrible at.
Yeah.
Right? I can put together if it's
Yeah.
we can execute. I'm really good at executing passion projects.
Yeah.
But now it's that backseat, like, nope. Now that I have all these things going, now I have to get the business
Yep. The
portion
structure.
stronger.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm at now. That's my journey. Just really like, okay, I have this, I know how to put together a project. So
Yeah.
that was the Crume Creative Solutions, knowing how I'm just I can have a million projects, right? And then my husband has some things going on. My kids are going to start having some things going on too. And so the Crume Creative Solutions is just something that's going to be able to house all of these things.
Wow.
And
That's
as
great.
they grow beyond a passion project or something that's really successful, then we will independently LLC each one of them.
Yeah.
So
Wow, good for you guys. And that's such a great structure, because you can brand under your main LLC. That's like your main company, your brand, and then everything under there falls under your branding essentially. So anything that goes under, Crume's Creative Solutions is going to be of the same caliber and quality of this main LLC that people know, you know, because as soon as I saw that you started the desserts, I was like, wow, like how cool is that? And right away, like as soon as I saw you start it, it became so official and professional, and your marketing on it is phenomenal. Your videos. I checked out the website because I wanted to order, and I told Chris, like, I'm gonna order some of these. I think it was your red velvet cookies. And I'm like, I really want to order some of these. And he's like, no, wait until my juicing is done. I'm looking at the website and I'm like, this is like so good. And you must have created it like so fast.
In a weekend.
As soon as and that is so like, that's awesome. Most people take so much longer to create, you know, and the website is so easy to navigate. As soon as I got on there, I can literally order from my phone. Whereas a lot of websites, when they're created, even when they take 3 months to be created, the difference between ordering on a computer than ordering on your phone, like the setup is a lot different. So even the ease of ordering directly from your mobile was phenomenal. You know,
and it comes from that building, all those other small projects, like the journey that I went on with Arise Beautiful, and then the journey that I went on with publishing the book. Like all of those things, playing around with the marketing, playing around with these different systems behind the scenes allowed me to be able to, when Crume Fusion came to be, to turn that into something. And the thing, like, that's a story in itself. The whole like Crume Fusion thing is because when I first was home with the kids, I decided I wanted to do a baking blog. Okay. Right. And so I was home, I was baking with the kids. And so I have these early videos of like me and the kids in the kitchen, you know, doing things. And my friend, I shared with my friend who was a graphic designer. So she designed the logo and everything then for that blog. Yeah. But then when I went back to work, I kind of just put it on the back burner. I didn't have time to bake anymore. And that was just it. Yeah. But when I moved to North Carolina and had time again, it was almost like, okay, I just started baking. It started with baking a birthday cake for my niece. And then I started baking cookies. And then my husband was like, well, let's see how many different type of cookies you can make for Christmas. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And then, you know, the cookies were really good. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And I was sharing on Facebook and people were like, oh, I wish I could have some cookies. I was like, Valentine's Day is coming up. I wonder what it would take to offer Valentine's Day boxes. Wow. Right. So, you know, you look up research. Okay. What are the cottage food laws in North Carolina? Okay. You know, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the process. Okay. I got approved. Okay. I'm going to throw this website together. Here go my logo. And boom.
That is so awesome. Yeah, you were definitely born to be an entrepreneur. That's for sure. Yeah. Stuff like that is just in you because it is. It's as you saw the need or you saw the wants, and right away you're like, okay, what do I need to do to go ahead and fill this? You know, on a professional level. That is really good. And most people will see that and be like, oh, you know, too much. You know, maybe I'll send them some or something on such a smaller scale. But again, the entrepreneur is like, okay, there's a want for this. I'm going to go ahead and do what I need to do to fulfill it.
And the good thing, and too, like, because again, being on the journey with the other smaller projects, and being connected to Nicole, like she's really good. She really is good at what she does. So she really did lay a really solid foundation on how to do this for me. Yeah. So I will give her that credit, you know, the Milt love, like she really did lay the foundation for this. And so then knowing that, I know, like I've created this business debt-free too.
Yeah. Right. Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah.
So, you know, using pre-orders and things like that to build so that I'm not coming out of my pocket. And so in the way that it has taken off, like now, you know, this is new, but I'm moving it out of my house because it's grown to be too much to contain in my house. Yeah. And so like literally, right now I'm onboarding for some commercial kitchen space. So I've just contracted to rent out commercial kitchen space. So we're growing and, you know, we're going to be doing some food festivals and things like that. So it's really taken off unexpectedly.
Wow, that's great. I'll see you on Shark Tank soon. I love that. And I really love that I was looking at the bio of Crume Fusions when you kind of like also blended therapy with creating your desserts, and because it's something you love, it's your like form of self-care.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great way to do things with your kids, and to be able to blend all those things into a then business is like, it's everybody's dream, really, to be able to do something they love, something that relaxes them, makes them feel good, and then turn that into a business.
Yes. And I think, that's the journey that I'm on. And I think, um, and it's right in line with my messaging and the things that I'm always telling people. Like your skill sets, one of the things that that something is for you is that you're good at it.
Yeah.
And if you're good at it, you should be able to monetize it, period.
Yes, absolutely.
And so even if it's something small, like I used to always joke with people, and like one of my coworker from the prison, like she had messaged me about my cookies, and she was like, I remember you told me even if I was a stay-at-home mom and I was going to a bake sale to bake the best cookies
Oh,
ever.
wow.
Like she was like, so is this you baking the best cookies ever? And I'm like,
Oh.
kinda, but it is like you would be surprised at something that you think is little could be really lucrative for you.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so and again, we are all created differently. We all have things in us that will allow us to succeed and to put these tools together,
Wow.
given the right environment, given the right tools, given the right nourishment. um and so you'll be surprised, and I always tell people, like, when you look around you, everything that you see was once a thought in somebody's head.
Yeah. Yep. It's so true. Isn't that crazy? What do you think? So doing all of this in these amount of years, plus motherhood, plus all of your schooling and everything, what do you think has been your biggest challenge so far?
Not enough time. No.
Yeah. Seriously.
Um, not enough time.
More energy.
Energy, yeah, and balance. I think my biggest challenge has been balance.
Yeah.
I feel like on some level I have been conditioned for that hustle, work mentality.
Yeah.
And that's not it either.
Yeah.
So that's not it. That's not what's working for me. And so it was that mentality that kind of ran my health into the ground.
Yeah.
Right. And so since that kind of health scare, it's been, you know, unpacking some of these different
Yeah.
things. And yeah, I've been able to, because of all of these passion projects,
Yeah.
I have been able to slow down.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily, work harder, get more money, but it's work creatively.
Mm, really.
Um, and so now it ebbs and flows. And so now that I'm baking all these cookies, I'm not having to counsel 30 people a day, right? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
um,
It's a nice
so,
break from that too. Yeah. Yeah.
so it's nice to be able to, do these things. And I always tell people, like, for me as an entrepreneur, as a creative, like, creating is my coping skill.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's good.
When life gets tough, that's when I usually birth a project.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. Yeah. And that's
So
good though, because I think that, like you said, it's perfectly said. It's a coping skill. Life gets tough. Let my brain go here to something I could be more passionate about and exert some more energy here as opposed to all the tough areas that's happening right now. Yeah, that's good. Wow. So this is a loaded question for you because I already know you read like crazy. Like you always had a book to offer. And just when we did our Milt Talk, the mental health webinar, that was the first time I had a chance to really know the new Angie and all the stuff that I mean, I was completely blown away and impressed by your level of education and your knowledge in therapy in general. Like I said before, you're probably one of the and I haven't even sat with you and had any therapy. I just learned from what you how you talked and what you knew about when we did the webinar. So loaded question. What type of self-development and self-care do you do and how often?
So I consume a lot. I say I consume a lot of information.
Yes. Yeah. I could see that. And I've not even been close to you besides the webinar. And I saw it just from that. Yeah.
I basically, so I have an addiction to Audible. Like I listen to books.
Yeah.
So, and I've learned to accept that I don't read. I don't like physically read a book because my brain moves too fast to comprehend what I actually see on the page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow.
And I've learned, and that's okay. Cause some people make me feel bad about like listening to a book, but I listen to books. I probably listen to about a book a week.
Wow.
And awesome. Not like, so sometimes it's a self-help book. Sometimes it's most of the time I really enjoy like fantasy books written by Black authors. That's like my thing. So that's my self-care thing. To bake and to listen to audiobooks is kind of like my zen. I get into my zone when I'm baking. I listen to my books and do my whole like love thing. So that the love thing, that's my special sauce on my cookies. So my mood and everything has to be right when I'm making my cookies. I'm very intentional about that. Like if I'm moody, like I'll go take a nap and I won't. Yeah. Like, I'm not gonna bake these right now because they're not baked with love. And that's my whole thing with my cookies is love in a box. So if I'm not loving, I'm not baking. Yeah. So that's one of my self-care, baking and listening to fantasy books. But then I do have the self-help books too that I listen to as well. Like a lot of different things from mental health care, self-worth, finances, like all of that kind of stuff.
Right. That's funny because a lot of times people think self-development is just that, books on, those kinds of things. But self-development and self-care can be exactly what you like, your fantasy books. Yeah. And that's good because a lot of times people, like when I mentor people on self-development, a lot of times people are like, what book should I read? And this and that. And they're not readers or they haven't really listened to Audibles or anything like that. This is them just first starting this journey. And I'll ask them like, what do you like? Like, what are you passionate about? What kind of movies do you like or whatever? And then I'll try to choose a book in that genre so they could kind of get their feet wet reading or listening to an Audible. Because I'm also not, I can't just consume a bunch of Gary Vee or a bunch of, everything self-help, self-development, because I'll just get bored and it'll start to become like monotone. I'll need a little bit of, criminal stuff in there and some serial killer stuff in there because that's like my thing, that's what kind of gets me going. Yeah.
So in here, I just kind of made a Facebook post about that, but really, it's multiple levels of self-care. Like basically there's all these different parts of you, right? And so when you're starting to burn out and you feel off, you have to identify like what area it's in, because if you are emotionally tired, right? Like a nap is not going to help that. Yeah. A nap will help you if you're physically tired.
Right.
Not emotionally tired.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And so it's going to require something different for you to do. Like your mani-pedi may be nice.
Right.
But if
it's not going to fix your loneliness.
No. So really think about it in that way. Like there's all these different levels of self-care. Which one of these levels is out of whack? And then you do something in that area.
Yeah.
And so for me, like I said, I've learned that my brain goes 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So physically reading a book is all that's going to do is frustrate me.
Right.
Because I'm going to be reading the same page over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Audible though, especially the fantasy books, and I'm very particular about the type of books and who's narrating the book. Like if I turn it on and it sounds crazy, I'm turning it off.
Yeah.
So that's really important because that's the one thing that's actually turns my brain off and allows
Yeah.
me to get immersed into the story.
Yeah.
Right. And so all of these things is the more you know about yourself, the more you have taken the time to really be honest and think about what your needs are, the better you are able to create a self-care plan.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's really good. Yeah. So during this time of the pandemic, how do you think that's affected your business and you as an entrepreneur?
1 second, let me grab my charger and my
Okay.
computer.
Okay. Bub, you want to go get your candy worms? Okay. Mm. Okay, finish your crackers. We'll have them a little bit later.
Now one.
Just 3, okay? Only 3, and then we'll have more later. Okay. Three. Zamina, 3, or else you get 0. Okay.
Don't stick together.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay. So,
So
yeah. How do you think during this time of the pandemic, how do you think that's affected your businesses and you as an entrepreneur?
business has taken off, I think, for me, during the pandemic. It's caused me to be a little bit more creative with life.
Yeah.
And be strategic about like what I'm doing. So the pandemic allowed me to relocate
Yeah.
first, and relocate and keep my job, my my normal job.
Right.
So moving
Oh,
from
that's
Massachusetts,
awesome. Yeah.
so moving from Massachusetts to North Carolina, the difference in cost of living is amazing, while still
Yeah.
maintaining
Because
my
Boston's
Massachusetts.
expensive. Yeah.
Yes, while still maintaining my Massachusetts pay has been
Yeah.
amazing. Right?
Oh, that's great. Yes. Yes.
So again, so then now I'm not having to work as much. I have more free time. I'm closer to family. So that's been good. Again, moving closer to family, you know, we're not necessarily in isolation. Like we rotate between our homes, but I have 7 siblings,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
So it's 7 of us total. So, you know, that's enough social. That's enough social like
Yeah. More
interaction.
than enough.
Yeah, we don't need other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Great.
that's been good. So socially, I've been able to thrive.
Yeah.
With the free time, again, I've been able to share my cookies with the world. You
Yeah.
know, well, not the world, the continental USA. Um, and yeah, just I've been able to develop my creativity,
Yeah.
and I'll say creativity. I think being a creative and creativity is the key to unlocking your personal potential.
Yeah.
And so whatever creativity means for you, and so that's one of the things that I take my clients on. The first thing that I do is, even if it's just 5 minutes a day, like how do you play, as an adult? Because usually that's the first thing to go when you become an adult. How
Yeah.
do you play?
Right.
Because your play is your creativity. That is how children learn the world, right? So how do you play?
Yeah.
How do you play? And then do that, even if it's just 5 minutes a day.
Yeah.
And when you're in that zone, you'll be surprised at how you begin to look at problems differently, how you begin to find solutions to your problems, because that is what your brain was designed to do.
Yeah.
So you got to play.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's so important too. I always, um, like when I view my motherhood, that's where me and Chris are a lot different too. Like he's very good at like curriculum, structure, you know, that those kinds of things. Where I'm really good at like excursions, you know, thinking out of the box, having fun, being silly with her, just kind of getting on her level, being playful, jokey. We play hide and seek all the time. I probably get a little bit more fun out of it than she does sometimes, you know, because I'm in the end, I'm like a big kid, you know, the outdoors is like my, you know, serenity.
But it's also but it's also specific, right? Because that's your play, right? You have more creative play, where there's some kids that like to play with Legos and they're structural and that's their play, right? So again, when you're asking the question like how do you play as an adult, think about how do you play? What do you find enjoyable? If that means doing a word search because you like words, do a word search. If that means that you are an artist, draw. If that means that you're a musician, do some music. If you are a programmer, program something. Like you do what is specific to your skill set because that's how it grows and it begins to become a tool for you. So you have to exercise that. And so, you know, a lot of times as an adulthood, you study, you get boxed into this thing, you go to work, you do these things, and then your creativity falls. Parts of you die because that is where you know, that is who you are. Like your play is who you are. And so when that is suppressed, what, of course you're going to be anxious, of course you're going to be depressed, of course you're going to be all these other things because part of you is dying.
That's so true. It's like filling your own, like when we talk about like love tanks and stuff, it's like filling your own tank, your play tank.
And as you begin to push and you begin to lean into that creativity, you start to say, this is fun. And then you're going to do more of it. And then you're going to do more of it. And because you're good at it and you're wired to do that, then you can begin to monetize it.
Right. Yeah. So with that said, what two pieces of advice do you think you'd give to someone starting their entrepreneurial journey?
Trust yourself.
Oh, that's good.
Because even if you completely fail, your brain is powerful enough to problem solve your way out of it.
That's good. Yes. Wow. I'm going to write that down because that's great. And it just goes back to, you know, the belief in yourself, your self-worth, trusting yourself, you know, to be able to even fail, you know, trust yourself to fail and get back up again.
And don't think that I'm naive and it's all like rainbows and sunshines because entrepreneurship is hard. It really is hard. It takes long hours. It takes lots of work. And there are very real systems and very real barriers to success. You know, we're not going to front like, you know, people are just going to give you out loans and, you know, racism and systemic racism and all that stuff doesn't exist because it does. However, you must understand that you are also powerful and your brain can still problem solve its way around those obstacles. That's how all these people that we celebrate in Black history and all these other things that have overcome tremendous challenges. Why? Because they believed in themselves and they were able to problem solve their way out of it. So you know, so don't just necessarily take it. You know what I'm saying? Get to thinking, okay, what needs to be shifted? It may not be fair, it may not feel good, but at the end of the day, like you were born to adapt.
Right.
And you were born to survive. And that grit, that same grind is what's going to bring you success.
Yes. Yeah. That's so good. And I think that's a great quality of the entrepreneur is being solution oriented instead of problem oriented. You know, you focus on the problem, that's all you're going to be able to see. But if you focus on the solutions, the potential solutions to the problem, then, you know, you get a little bit of glimpse of more hope that a solution is attainable even. Yeah, that's good. How do you think, especially for you, how has business ownership affected your family life?
I think it's been really inspiring to them.
Yeah.
Like my kids are always like, my mom has cookies, and like, oh, telling his teacher, oh, my mom, we started a cookie business, and his teacher was like, bought a box of cookies, and Manny's always going around talking about my cookie business, and really excited about it.
Yeah.
And they're trying to help me. Like I'm still trying to figure out like my packaging, and I'm really particular about the way I like package my boxes and stuff. But they really want to help. They're always like, "Mommy, can I help?" And I'm like, "No." That's the like perfectionist of me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and my husband, they could put a sticker on the box like, no,
Yeah.
no, the sticker has to go like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that part. But outside of that, like they're really excited. Again, my kind of journey has inspired my husband to kind of step out and do his own thing, too. And we're doing more partnerships, and so he's going to take over some aspects of the business too.
Yeah.
Kind of the web-based stuff,
Oh,
that
very nice.
thing.
That's good.
So he's into the technology and stuff. So that's really great. It's going to allow me to do
Get
some
more
other
stuff for
things.
you to be creative.
Yeah. So that's really, I'm excited for him. And then, yeah, again, like my family, they're all like, what are
Yeah.
we doing this summer? We're going to food festivals. Okay, make sure you have me a t-shirt. I'll go
Yeah.
hand out and sell some cookies. So everyone is kind of inspired by just, I think everyone's just shocked and like inspired,
Yeah.
how it all just kind of like came together and took off. So that's really exciting. Um, yeah, just in giving people the idea that like it's possible. Like it doesn't even have to be complicated. Like it's cookies. Like
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's cookies,
No.
but that belief in self and the willingness to kind of just do it
Yeah.
and see what
One foot
happens.
in front of the other. Yeah. That's awesome. And I love that because I think kids these days, I mean, time has evolved, we're not in a time anymore where it's like, grow up, go to college, get a job, grow up, go to college, get a job. Th- Things are so different now. And for them to be able to see, your progress and you taking risks and you stepping out is so crucial. And you had alluded to this a little bit earlier. You said the kids are going to start having something to go under that umbrella,
Mhm.
that LLC, which is phenomenal. I mean, I have another friend that I know in California. She has two kids, and she started like a cotton candy business for her kids, and they're like little actors, here and there. And I
Mhm.
love that because the world is going so fast, and I see more and more and more kids becoming young entrepreneurs.
Yep.
I mean, even the younger class Milts that I've been interviewing are starting businesses like even before they decide to go to college, midway through college, dropping out and starting a business, and they're getting younger and younger. So that's phenomenal, and it, again, for your kids to be as young as they are, to see you in this journey, priceless. I'm such a big advocate of that because not that I'm like, my daughter can't go to college or anything like that. Whatever she wants. I don't want her to take the entrepreneurial path just because I did,
Mhm.
but I definitely want her to just be able to express herself however she wants. And it's the characteristics that she'll be able to see and that your kids see in you that'll guide them the best.
And and for me, like I'm really big too on like the family legacy because
Yeah.
you know coming from our backgrounds as Milts, we come from dysfunction, right?
Yeah.
So we got some work to do. And so I always say that like we're not starting at the bottom, we're starting out of the hole, right?
Yeah.
So every step that we take has to be purposeful,
Mhm.
right? And so for me to build a legacy of wealth, it's going to require a family effort. It's going to require me, it's going to require my husband, and it's going to require my children.
Yes.
And so really inspiring them to, think about it. Like my kids really want to do like YouTube and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
that's
That's
fine,
awesome.
but it's okay. Let's talk about the concept, right? Let's talk about, what type of content you want to do. Like, we're thinking through the idea. So teaching them how to think through and problem solve for something that they want, not telling them no, but okay, if this is something you want to do, let's think about it. How can we practically do that?
Yes. Yes.
My kids, they have a problem. They don't take care of things very well. So I'm not going to come and get you all this equipment if you're not going to take care of it, right? So
Yeah.
we're going to start with the basics. but let's think about it, you know, and build the problem solving skills. The best thing that you can give your child is the ability to problem solve.
Yeah, absolutely. I just talked to Kelsey Steele yesterday, and he had said one thing that I thought was so good. He said, learn how to reverse engineer something. So take that big thought or that big dream that you have, and then reverse engineer it to be able to go backwards and see all the steps necessary to achieve it. And that's so good. And you're saying the same exact thing. It is, because it's the practical steps in between. You know, yes, you want to be a YouTube blogger. Okay. What's your content going to be? What is this going to do? Yeah. And a lot of time, again, the average person that has all these dreams, yet doesn't think about all the in between that it's going to take. Yeah.
And I think, you know, and I think sometimes that's the difference between like an entrepreneur and like someone, a business owner or something like that. You know, like a serial entrepreneur is someone that is really good at doing that. And recognizing that that is a unique skill set.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone doesn't think that way. Because the first conversation that I had with my son, because he had made a comment to me about like, oh, we should do this type of cookie. Right. And so then I walked him through my thought process, and he was in tears. He was in tears. And he felt rejected and shut down. And I was like, oh, baby, I'm so sorry. That is not what I meant. Like, I really did think it was a good idea. But, you know, you have to think about all these other things too. And so I was trying to teach him how to do that. But again, realizing that that's how my brain works.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I mean, it's the same thing too with my husband as he's, you know, planning, you know, and moving forward in his consulting business, having to sit down with him and like, well, did you do this? And he's like, I'm like, no, that's not, no.
Yeah. My dream is dying.
I'm just
How funny. But it's so necessary. It's so necessary because, and that's the good balance there. That's the really great balance. It's funny because it's reversed for like me and my husband. He's you and I'm your husband and your kids. Like I have all these thoughts. And then Chris is like, wait, slow it down. Let's step by step. And I'm like, so are you saying not? He's like, no. I'm saying step by step, like practical stuff. Yeah.
But I'm like, but I have all the thoughts too. Yeah. Like that's the thing. Like, so that's why my brain is always moving, because if I have a thought, I'm like, oh, that would be good.
Yeah.
And then it's like all the, you know how people have the like math problems, like that's how like I do with like dreams, right? It's like, okay, I can put the pieces together, and that's how I would execute this. And then I'll have a completely different thought, like, what if I made swimsuits? And then
that's so funny. But you know what? That's so great that you have the ability to do both, to be able to have all these creative thoughts and then, you know, reverse engineer it and know and just strategize the plan it's going to take to get there. That's really good. Again, you have so many great qualities that a lot of people have to take a lot of time to build up, whereas like you have them already and you're just chiseling them as you go. It's really, really good.
And not just have them already, but what you feed. Right. And this is where it comes back to your question about self-development. What you feed will grow.
Right.
And so as you do something and you're like, I'm interested in that, or I'm pretty good at that, then you feed that and you do more of it.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of times we like to feed the bad stuff and the negative and dwell there. But no, you find the good and then you keep doing it. Yeah. And then you get better at it. And then you keep doing it. And you get better at it. And you keep doing it. And like you said, with entrepreneurship, like if you look around you at all the like dumb stuff that we have out here, like someone will buy your random gadget.
Yep. The squatty potty.
Right. Or listen to
potty at my house. Yeah.
And listen to your random rants. Like people will.
Absolutely. Yep. There is always a need or a want somewhere. Yeah. The littlest things can become billion-dollar businesses. The squatty potty, I saw Shark Tank years ago, and it was the silliest thing. I think it actually started, their first marketing around it was like a YouTube funny video, like silly, stupid, funny about poop. And everybody thought it was a joke. and then boom, $1 billion business. I mean, unreal. Yeah.
That's what it is. Because what happens is you experience a challenge, right? Your skills shine through because like you've used those skills to overcome that challenge, right?
Yeah.
And then now you have to ask yourself, well, now that I've learned these skills and I have these skills, who's my audience?
Yeah.
Because someone else is going through this.
Absolutely. Exactly.
Damn,
Yeah.
like that we go through things to be able to give and help others.
Absolutely. That's so good. Yeah. To give that
Things
value
don't just
back.
keep happening to you just to happen to you. Like
Yeah. Yeah. And not
gain
just learn
something
it
from
for
it.
yourself, but now pass it on. Yeah. So good. Okay. So second to last question.
Okay.
And we just talked about this. You said this was so big for you. What's your overall vision for your legacy and your future generations?
I'm trying to leave a legacy of wealth and love for my family.
So
You
good.
know, I am very intentional about, well, intentional. I'm very intentional about the way I'm building my businesses too,
Yeah.
and making sure that they are heart centered and love based.
Yeah.
It's not about the money for me. That's good, that will come. But for me, I'm a very heart centered person, and the services and the things that I'm offered are very people based.
Yeah.
And so everything is coming out of my connection, my human connection. And
Yeah.
so that is very important to me as I'm building these businesses.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing is that that is what is making my businesses profitable
Mhm.
because of the relationships that I have. Like
Yeah.
all of these cookies and stuff that I'm selling, I'm only selling to people that I know
Yeah. Yeah.
on Facebook with very minimal effort.
Yeah. That's so,
So, you know, in little things like, oh, I'm feeling down today. Like, who wants to buy me Starbucks? And like, boom, like, right?
yeah.
Cash App lights up.
Yeah.
Like those type of things. It's relations, and why are people willing to do that? Is because I
Yeah.
have taken the time to build relations and relationships with people, and so that is one thing that I am very intentional about with building my legacy. So when you think about Angie, I want you to think that Angie was a loving person and
Mhm.
that she did what she did for others and to get wealthy doing it.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because we also have to get by, and we also want to create that generational wealth. That's not a bad thing at all. That's a great thing. That's prosperity. Um, and of course, a lot of value has to come with a monetary sign behind it.
Mhm.
But your equity is in the relationships you've built with all of these people. Yeah, that's so good. That's good. And now your equity will also leak into your kids, because that memory of you will go into their caliber of their character.
Mhm.
That's also part of that legacy. That's so good. So last question, what does being a Milt mean to you?
Being a Milt means a lot to me. It's a very unique experience, a very special club.
Yeah.
Um, and I enjoy being part of that club. And yeah, for all everything that happened there, like it's it's a pleasure. It is very important to me. There's no Angie without Milt and Hershey.
Yeah.
You know, like they put together the foundation.
Yeah.
And they've given me opportunities that I have been able to leverage really well in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful for that. And so being a Milt, it's being part of a special organization. Yeah.
Yes, I love that. It really is. We are very lucky to be part of the association, the connection, the family. So
Mhm.
good. Yeah. So before we go, I want you to, again, shout out your business names, any websites you want people to know about, any social media handles. All of that is going to be in the description of the episode, but go ahead and shout it out also for people to hear it.
Okay. So I am
Take a deep
Angenette.
breath because you have so much going on already.
I am Angenette Crume. I do all the things, right? But my thing, so we'll start with I have a coaching and consulting business called Arise Beautiful. I call it self-worth coaching. And so that's where I was saying we pick apart those things that make you uniquely you. We solidify your self-worth, because if that is not stable, then it's going to taint everything you do. And so I do a lot of self-worth coaching through Arise Beautiful. And if you want or are interested in coaching, I'm working with me in that capacity. The website is arisebeautiful.com. And then I also wrote a children's book. It is called Arise My Beautiful Child. And you can purchase that on Amazon. And let's see what else. Crume Fusion is my latest endeavor, my dessert business. We are taking it to the next level. Woo, woo. And so if you want to order some cookies, and now I'm offering little mini cakes in a jar as well with the cookies. So if you're interested in getting a box, or want to try some things, I also am offering a subscription. So if you want like a monthly subscription to that and get a box of cookies like once a month, that would be awesome. And you can find that at crumefusion.com. And yeah, I think that's about it right now.
Yes. And you're on Facebook. I see you on Facebook a lot, and Instagram. Any other platforms?
Mainly Facebook and Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, Angenette Crume. Crume Fusion has a page. Arise Beautiful also has a page. Arise My Beautiful Child also has a page. They all have pages.
It'll all, yeah.
Yeah, they all have pages. Instagram, they all have pages as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on here. I learned so much from you as always. So say bye to everybody.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.